Fantasy as a genre has always been rather popular among young adults. So when Andre Norton wrote his book about a young boy who had the powers to communicate with animals, he surely knew how popular his character would become. After a movie produced by MGM, the BeastMaster got a TV reboot, and in today's video, we'll be looking into this show that really takes us back in time. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Forging the Wild, behind the animal kingdom of BeastMaster. Seeing the popularity of the novel by Andre Norton and the movie The BeastMaster, which was released in 1982, Silvio Tabet decided to develop this Australian and Canadian TV series that ran for 66 episodes. The show was first produced by the Alliance Atlantis, and right before the third season, the production team in charge became the Coot Hayes production. The basic premise of the story is simple. Over the 66 episodes, we explore and learn about the life of the last boy of the Sula tribe, Dar, played by Daniel Goddard. Dar can speak with animals and is in search of his lover, Kira, played by the beautiful Natalie Mendoza. Kira is kidnapped by the Terran warriors, and Dar wants to save her, but there is more at play here. His father, King Eldar, had defeated this force of evil known as Balsifer. Balsifer, being the supreme evil that he was, had a human agent. That agent was none other than King Zed, the king of Terran warriors. So the vendetta that King Zed had against Dar was personal. Dar went on several adventures with his champions, Tau, Arena, Ru, Shark, Hodo, and Kodo, to save Kira and hopefully defeat both Balsifer and King Zed. The world of BeastMaster is fantastic, both in its lore and in its view. There are so many tribes living in the Midland that Dar calls home. This place has a paradise-like beauty about it, which makes all the locations memorable. But that doesn't mean that Dar and his friends don't get to visit anywhere else. They've traveled to other places as well, such as other realms known as the Down and the Territories. When the show started, the themes were quite dark. Genocide is a common practice in the story, and it also delves deep into poaching and hunting of animals. Tau, Dar, and Arena, all three happen to be the survivors of genocide, and we get to see Ru's past and how he was attacked by a hunter. However, there was still a prominent mark of the pacifistic and environmentalist approach present in the show. This approach was then changed when Coot Hayes took over the series' productions. The show now became more focused on combat, which gave the story a drastic change in tone and representation. The third season of the run kind of acted more like a reboot, unlike the first two, where there was continuity. However, despite all of that, this show garnered massive popularity amongst the fans of the original novel owing to its charming cast, the on-location shooting, and the powerful music composition by Graham Coleman. Tracing the journey from start to finish in BeastMaster. The series starts off with a beautiful overhead shot of the forest. Amidst the soothing greenery, you have a waterfall. On top of that, we see a man standing. That man is Dar, our main guy. Dar recently had to watch his village burn and his lover being taken away. So when he learns that she's alive, he decides to set off immediately, trying to save her from wherever she is. He jumps into the waterfall, and after taking what I can only assume to be a rejuvenating swim, he gathers his belongings. In his brief moment of spiritual connection, he learns that his girl was kidnapped by one of the most brutal warrior sects of the world, the Terran warriors. Saving her would not be an easy task, but Dar was willing to do whatever it took to save her. Now, an adventurer is never truly an adventurer unless they have an animal companion. For Dar, the animal companions happen to be his two pet ferrets, Hodo and Kodo. He took them along with him as he set out on the daring rescue mission. When Dar encountered the Terran camp, a horrific sight awaited him. Turns out, the Terran warriors were using the prisoners as tiger bait. They were pushing the ones in captivity to the ravenous tigers and enjoying the pitiful cries of the prisoners who tried to run away from the beast. Kira was one of those prisoners. The line was moving forward, and one of the prisoners was just about to become a tiger meal when, surprisingly, the tiger attacked the Terran guards instead of him. That's an opportunity only a fool would miss. So Dar decided to launch his attack while the Terran guards were distracted by the tiger, who we learn is called Rue. Rue gets captured in a net that was specifically designed for tigers, and Dar is outnumbered. Things were getting a bit too difficult. However, that's when Dar and Rue made eye contact. A connection was born between the two immediately. This allowed Dar to give Rue the proper instructions necessary for the animal to outwit the Terran guards and protect the prisoners. This forced the evil Terran king, King Zed, to leave. He left with his troops and his prisoners, leaving the one guy whom Rue had spared. That guy happened to be Tao. Tao realizes that Dar is the last remaining male of the Sula tribe, the one tribe where they can telepathically communicate with animals. Yes, guys, Dar is the fabled BeastMaster the show is centered around. Unbeknownst to them, a sorceress watches over their every move. Clearly, her intentions are not well-meaning. She wants Dar's powers to be used for her benefit. The only way she can get her hands on Dar's powers is by bringing him to her, so she sets out to hatch her evil plan. On the other hand, Dar was walking through the forest in search of his lover with his new companions, and that's when he heard the voices of women. Following the voices, he reached a lake where he saw a lot of ladies having a grand old time. Out of all of them, one of them struck him as familiar. She was one of King Zed's prisoners, so she can definitely tell him about Kira. With that in his head, he asked the woman for help. The woman told him that Kira was in the small place right next to the lake. Dar decides to go inside the structure without much worry, hoping to get his lover out. The moment Dar entered the place, instead of Kira, he came face to face with a chimera. This chimera was planted by the woman who told him that Kira was there. This woman was none other than the seductress who wanted Dar's powers. The chimera is a monster made of lava and fire. It was able to overpower Dar swiftly. With Dar rendered unconscious in a matter of minutes, the chimera left the premises. Rue, who is waiting outside for Dar, realized that something must have gone wrong, so he entered the place, which was now on fire due to the fight with the chimera. Rue woke up Dar, and together they ran out of the fiery building. He looks for Kira, but she is gone. This time, the sorceress makes herself and her intentions known. This leads to an all-out fight between Dar and the sorceress. The sorceress casts a fireball, which turns into the chimera that Dar had just encountered. As Dar's in the middle of a fight that might cost him his life, King Zed escapes the area with Kira in tow. Finally, Dar managed to slice the creature through the middle, claiming victory for himself, but Kira was nowhere to be seen. Hodo managed to get him a magical talisman that had Kira's face on it, and with that, Dar and his companions returned to Midland, vowing to get Kira back by hook or by crook. Dar was planning on how to save his love Kira when he randomly came across a man who was being chased around by Terran warriors. It was clear that if he did not interfere and stop this fight, the man would be killed off by the evil warriors. Dar decides to save his life, followed by the man, who introduces himself as Akil. Akil is a Terran warrior, but he's banished from his brethren because he's in love with a girl from King Zed's harem. He was chased out of the group, and he intends to infiltrate the warriors to save his lover. Dar, whose lover is also suffering the same fate, decides to join hands with Akil, much to Tao's displeasure. Especially after Akil saved Dar from the hands of the evil spider witch, the two men became a team. The plan worked out amazingly between them until, well, it turned out that they were both in love with Kira. In light of this new revelation, Akil claims that the only way they can solve this issue is by having a fight to the death. Whoever stays alive gets to have Kira. Dar had no intention of fighting his new friends, especially when they were surrounded by Terran warriors, but he decided to go for it because of Akil's insistence. The fight was short-lived but brutal. Blows were exchanged, and by the end of it, Dar was the one standing. He was about to kill Akil, but he couldn't bring himself to end the man's life, so Dar let him go. Realizing that Dar had saved his life for the second time, Akil decided to help Dar instead. Akil attacked the Terran warriors around him, hoping Dar would be able to go through them and get to Kira. Dar did go, but Akil suffered a serious blow, which we can assume took his life. Dar reached the Terran camp, hoping to find Kira, only to have the camp disappear into thin air. The sorceress from the last episode came back again. This time, she said that if he would give her his powers, he would get Kira back. But Dar, like the smart man he is, decides that he wants nothing to do with the witch. witch and her powers and leaves for Midlands. While Dar was having this adventure, Rue, the majestic tiger, was out having his own adventure. Rue was approached by a young cub called Raja, whose sister Sita was captured. The man who took Sita is Ishmael, a man working under Baha, the legendary tiger slaver. When Rue showed up to stop the cub napping, he recognized Ishmael and realized what a tough spot he was in. You see, a few years ago, when Rue was a cub himself, Baha had tried to capture him, but Rue had killed his son and escaped with his freedom. So Rue would not only be walking into a bunch of hunters when he goes to save Sita, but he would also be facing off against someone who definitely wants his head on a plate. But Rue knew what needed to be done, so he did go and face off against Baha. Baha tried to gain the upper hand and kill the beast that took his son's life, but Rue, being the majestic and powerful beast that he was, defeated him. Instead of killing Baha, he left Baha horribly maimed and tore off one of his legs. With that, Rue came back with Sita and Raja. All this time, Tao had been living with Dar in Midlands. He decided that he wanted to venture out a little and experience the world. While Dar isn't too happy about it, he understands that Tao has his own reasons. So, with a heavy heart, Dar bid his friend farewell. Tao unraveled a map to decide where to go, and a ring of his people rolled out. This ring was worn by the free thinkers of his people, and as a symbol of his people, Tao decided to carry it with him. This decision turned out to be a big mistake, when Tao ended up taking a wrong turn and reached a village that hated the free thinkers the most. As he had the jade ring with him, he was punished by the people of the village. They were going to send him off to an island where ferocious birdmen would eat him alive. Tao and two other criminals, Podge and Elsa, were awaiting their fate when a girl, Haisa, approached Tao. She gave him her silver comb, asking Tao to give it to her lover Nihilus, who may still be alive on the island. Soon after, Tao, Podge, and Elsa are forcibly put in the boat and taken to the fateful island. There, Podge and Elsa accidentally triggered the bamboo cage that lifted the Duro high up in the air. Tao somehow managed to dodge the trap with the help of a man there, who turned out to be none other than Nihilus. Nihilus had survived on the island by carefully planning out his actions and studying the Birdmen. He told Tao that the Birdmen are incapable of flight. They can only glide to a certain degree, and that too for just short distances. The cage where Podge and Elsa were captured gets triggered again, but this time the floor of the cage gives out. They fall to the ground, and the Birdmen swoop in on the thieves. Podge somehow manages to save himself, but Elsa is killed in this confrontation. That's when, surprise, surprise, guess who shows up on the island? Haisa. But she ain't alone. Dar has come along with her. It turns out that Dar learned that Tao is in danger thanks to his connection with Shirak, his pet eagle. So he showed up in Tolfit hoping to save his friend. That is where he met Haisa, who decided to tag along to save her lover. Tao, Haisa, and Nihilus ended up trapped in the bamboo cage in the midst of the chaos, and they knew what fate awaited them. As soon as the bottom of the cage is out, Dar and Rue guide everyone to the beach, hoping to get on the raft that Dar and Haisa came on. Turns out, Podge had attacked Haisa when she arrived, and in the tussle, that raft was lost. Podge was killed, and now our heroes had no way of escaping. That was until they noticed a boat arriving with new sets of prisoners. Dar and Rue lured the guards away, and everyone else got on the boats. But right before they could go away, a group of birdmen showed up. The ghastly creatures were just about to attack them when Shirak decided to come and sit on Dar's shoulder. The birdmen, owing to the lack of flight amongst them, respected birds that could fly a lot. So, seeing Shirak, an eagle friendly with a human, led to them leaving Dar and his friends alone out of respect. As our heroes row away, the birdmen decide to focus on the guards who were left behind. Each episode of the show covers the adventures of Dar, Tao, Rue, and Shirak as they meet new people. They eventually get really close to saving Kira, but Kira is killed. But don't worry, soon after, Dar finds himself entangled with Arena, the last woman of a tribe who is popular for being the best fighter. By the end of the series, Dar is tasked with finding a key that would help him save his family from King Zed. King Zed had captured his family and put them in a crystal ark, hoping that would force Dar to cave in. Zed sent his men after Dar, but he outsmarted them by setting up booby traps camps around the forest to give them a warm surprise. Balsifer, the supreme evil, joined hands with King Zed to see the downfall of the BeastMaster. Together, they decided they would bring the boy to his knees by destroying his family. Chirac told Dar that the moon was in the wrong position. At first, he couldn't understand what it truly meant, but soon enough, Dar realized that what Chirac was referring to was the eclipse. Right before the eclipse was over, he had to save his family. Otherwise, they would remain in that crystal ark for the rest of their lives, which would not be very long with Balsifer after them. Now, Dar knew that the best way to save them would be to get the key that I mentioned a while ago. But where would they get that key from? After a while, Dar realized that the key was not actually a key. Instead, it was a family heirloom that he needed to get his hands on. The family heirloom that he was after had to be in his father's tomb. So with that knowledge, Dar left for his father's tomb with Arena and Tau, not knowing that Zed had his men following them. They reached the forgotten tomb in the middle of the jungle. Dar made his way down into the underground tomb, where things looked far more barren than they should have been. That struck Dar as odd. So when about 7 people came out of nowhere and surrounded them, Dar was not surprised at all. The leader of these people, a girl, recognized Dar's sword. Dar explained that this was his father's tomb, and it turns out these people were the keepers of the tomb, who were meant to protect his mausoleum from thieves and other evil forces. To do so, they had moved the precious things from there and kept them aside. When Dar explained that he was looking for something, the girl decided to take him to the place where all his father's things were kept. There was a crown, there was the sheath of the sword, and a lot more. However, Kodo and Podo kept pointing at a particular thing. That turned out to be a ring. When Dar took the jade ring in his hand, a symbol glowed in his palm, making it clear that this is what he was looking for. With that jade ring, Dar was making his way to the crystal ark when he was attacked by Zed and Balsifer. The fight between Zed and Dar was long awaited. The hatred that Dar had for the man who had ruined his life was palpable, and sure enough, Zed died a satisfying death. But amidst the chaos, Balsifer managed to get his hands on the ring that was going to unlock the crystal ark. Balsifer made it clear that he would kill his family if Dar did not stop him. Balsifer was hoping he wouldn't be able to show up, but Dar did. Dar attacked Balsifer with his sword, and right before the eclipse was about to end, Dar managed to get his hand on the ring and use it to unlock the crystal ark. Now that the eclipse had gone, Balsifer disappeared the moment the rays of the sun hit him. With his family now free, Dar was able to start his new life surrounded by his loved ones, something that he had been seeking for so long. A look into the cast and characters of BeastMaster. When it comes to the cast of the BeastMaster, I have to be honest, the casting director did an amazing job. This show has such a believable cast. What can I say? So let me take a quick moment and gush about Dar, our lovely protagonist, is played by the amazing Daniel Goddard. The first thing I have to mention is how boyish Daniel Goddard looks at the beginning of the series. Throughout the series, the actor grows into looking more aged with experience, and that makes us, the audience, feel like we just watched this boy grow up. In our eyes, Dar is the last surviving member of the Sula tribe. He has this special ability that allows him to speak with animals. The people carrying out this killing were the Terran warriors. After killing his people, the warriors took Kira, Dar's lover, away from him, which pushed Dar to being the adventurous lad we know him as. Since his young age, Dar trained to be a great fighter. He learned how to move from the animals, allowing him the dexterity and the lightning-fast reflexes with the ferocity of an animal. Dar learned how to attack snakes, how to cooperate with ants, and of course, he learned his defense skills from wolves. His lifelong goal was to protect the animals of Kurapira from harm, but another goal was added to his roster when Kira was kidnapped. While he was out to save Kira, he ended up meeting and befriending an Iron named Tau. Daniel Goddard portrays the nature-loving Dar with a lot of gentleness. He portrays how unique Dar is when he's amongst Terran warriors with ease. Dar's mentality, compassion, and empathy are all foreign concepts in the eyes of the Terran warriors. They do not relate to such sentiments, which is why it's interesting to see Dar like this. Now, every brute, strong muscle man needs a friend who is more about the brains and less about the brawn. In this case, it would be Tau, played by Jackson Rain. I have to make this confession. When I started watching BeastMaster, I enjoyed the show, but the one who made me fall in love with the series had to be Tao. Tao is the last of his people, and he is an Iron, a free thinker. His knowledge, along with his wit, makes him an extremely interesting companion to have. However, what really makes Tao remarkable is how gentle he is in general. There's a girl called Melina, with whom Tao shares a lot of scenes. It's so clear that Tao is head over heels for this woman. So when the girl is sick and in her delirium, she tries to kiss him. You'd expect him to lean in, right? But he doesn't. This boy literally holds the girl in his arms, kisses her forehead, and tells her that he loves her with all his heart when she questions his hesitation, still thinking he is her old lover. This gentleness made me a fan of Tao and Jackson Rain as a whole. Jackson does a superb job playing the role of this cute, nerdy guy that I can't help but associate him with Tao whenever I see him in his other works. Kira, the love interest of Dar, who is brought up time and time again, is played by the beautiful Natalie Mendoza. As I've mentioned before, Kira is the childhood sweetheart of Dar. She's a part of the Sula tribe, and her father was slain at the hands of the Terran warriors. Seeing her village destroyed, Kira ran away with the survivors to another place. Dar finally reached the place in search of Kira, only to find that she had been taken away by King Zed's men. After this, as you all know, her role is that of a damsel in distress. But before she was kidnapped, Kira played a role as the keeper of the tribe. See, in her tribe, there was no set tradition of writing things down. That's why all the traditions of the tribe had to be passed on from elder members to younger members through keepers. Kira was one such keeper whose job was to preserve the knowledge of the tribe. It would be a crime if I didn't mention the animal companions of the heroes who we see over and over again. So we have Rue, the tiger that Dar saved from the Terrans. Rue had fought his way through the Terrans, and ever since obtaining Dar's help, Rue had been his trusted companion. Rue mostly acts as Dar's advisor. Then we have the pair of naughty ferrets, Kodo and Podo. They're very good at stealing things and always hitch a ride in Dar's leather pouch, accompanying our heroes on their journeys. The mighty eagle that saved our heroes from the Birdmen is Sharak. Sharak is a golden eagle who looks absolutely regal, and he's been Dar's closest companion for a while now. Now that I've mentioned all the heroes, let me mention the villains who certainly left their impact on me. You have Stephen Graves playing the role of the hateful king, and King Zed is the ruthless ruler of the Terran warriors whose only goal in life is to loot and plunder. On his orders, the people of the Sula tribe were brutally murdered, and this was done because King Zed was the human agent of Balsifer. King Zed is the villain who shows up in pretty much every episode since the beginning of the show, and in each episode, you hate his character a little more. So when, in the last episode of the whole TV show, the character gets killed off, you do feel some sort of satisfaction in your heart. Balsifer, the Lord of Darkness, is a selfish and evil demon. Jeremy Callahan plays the role of this selfish demon to a T. He wanted to destroy the whole world just for the sake of creating chaos. King Eldar decided to go against Balsifer, but what the king was not expecting was for the demon to have such formidable forces as his allies. After King Eldar was slaughtered, it was his son, Dar, who managed to kill Balsifer and save Earth from his evil clutches. One of the biggest things that set the Balsifer character aside from everyone else was the use of a voice modulator. This character is supposed to be a demon, so understandably, there has to be something demonic about him. With the voice modulation, the malice of the role becomes elevated and is worth remembering for the menace that drips into every word he spews. Exploring the irresistible charm of BeastMaster. Xena Warrior Princess and Hercules, which came out in the early 1990s, definitely made people much more receptive to the fantasy genre. Whether it's historically accurate or not, as long as it has a charming cast and everyone's having fun, it's worth watching. That's exactly what happened when it came to BeastMaster. The story of BeastMaster was pretty simple, owing to the source material already provided by Andre Nort. However, the story writers took some liberties to make the show even more appealing to the general crowd. As a result of this creative liberty, the story ended up with huge plot holes that made it extremely difficult to take the show seriously. On the other hand, the cast of this show was extremely appealing. Daniel Goddard and Jackson Rain were clearly good at doing their job, which is why we feel so much for their characters. Also, the show cast Monica Schneider as the evil sorceress, which definitely caught the attention of a lot of people. She is drop-dead gorgeous after all. Looking at the show, if you were to approach it with a critical tyrannical mindset, hoping to find fodder to think on later, then you would be very disappointed. However, if you're looking for some mindless fun with a handsome guy pressing around the jungle, swinging a sword with his friends, then sure, this show might be right up your alley. And if you're a fan of the original book, you have been warned. Watch the show at your own risk. Personally, I enjoyed the show. It was fun, campy, and interesting. The show has quite the lore, and the beautiful scenery is mesmerizing. While the episodes get a little tedious because the formula of each episode is pretty much the same, I'd say you could ignore that bit once you simply go with the flow. One thing I found funny about the whole show is that it mostly seems that the supermodel-esque women, both evil and good, are pushed to the side because all the men in the show are mostly focused on one another. Found that quite funny. Marvelous verdict. Overall, if you're looking for something to watch to pass your time, then this show is for you. It's lighthearted and fun, with just the right amount of dark themes to keep you interested. The fight choreography is pretty good considering it's a low-budget production, but don't let that hold you back from enjoying the scenes. The show as a whole is very comforting to watch, and if you want a trip down your memory lane into a stressless childhood, this show is definitely worth watching. It would certainly make you nostalgic for the good old days. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.